Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. We're about to dive into something you literally do every single day, probably without giving it a second thought: eating. But don't worry, we're not trading recipes today. Instead, we're going to track the absolute wild, invisible journey your food takes before it ever hits your plate. Based on some seriously fascinating research into the international cereal trade, we're unpacking the massive global networks that feed us all and uncovering a pretty huge contradiction hiding right in plain sight.
So here's the big paradox we're tackling today. We all know the UN has set these urgent goals for sustainable development and cutting carbon emissions, right? We all want a greener future. But when you actually look at the reality of the global food supply chain, you kind of have to stop and ask, is sustainable mobility in the international cereal trade just a complete utopia? Like, can we honestly call our food systems green when they totally rely on massive diesel cargo ships and gas-guzzling trucks just to keep our grocery store shelves stocked?
Part 1. Zooming out. The global grain explosion. To really grasp the scale of this paradox, we've got to look at how our globalized economy hasn't just changed what we eat, but how much of it we're moving across borders. And this brilliantly illustrates what I'm talking about. Just look at that staggering upward trajectory for corn. Since the year 2000, rice and wheat production grew steadily at about 1.3% a year. But corn shot up by a massive 3.5% on average every single year. So why the spike? Well, it mostly boils down to rising incomes and shifting diets in booming economies like China, India, and Brazil. As people there consume more animal protein, the demand for livestock feed, which you guessed it, relies heavily on corn, has absolutely skyrocketed.
And that absolute explosion in demand leads us right to this mind-blowing figure. By 2022, the world was exporting over 209 million tons of corn. To put that massive number into perspective, the volume of exported corn has more than doubled since the year 2000. It's wild to think about, but we are literally moving mountains of grain across the oceans every single year.
But what does all this actually mean for our daily diets? Well, globally, on a per-person basis, human survival is massively tied to just 3 key staples. On average, a single person goes through 80 kilograms of rice, 70 kilograms of wheat, and about 19 kilograms of corn directly every single year. That is an incredibly high demand, and it requires a continuous, non-stop flow of these commodities all over the planet.
Section 2. Extreme commercial distances.
Okay, so there is this massive geographical disconnect happening right now in our food supply. Crops are grown wherever the climate and natural advantages are best. Think the vast plains of the Americas or the lush rice paddies in Asia. But they're increasingly being eaten on entirely different continents. Just take a second to think about the sheer scale of these distances. We are not talking about moving food a couple towns over here. Corn from Argentina is traveling over 12,700 kilometers to hit markets in Asia. Wheat is crossing almost 9,000 kilometers from Australia all the way to China. These aren't local farmers markets, folks. These are literal planetary supply lines.
But honestly, the statistic that absolutely drops the jaw is this one. 18,930 kilometers. That is the extreme average distance that sorghum travels from Argentina to Japan. Almost 19,000 kilometers. The environmental cost here, the sheer amount of fossil fuels it takes to push thousands of tons of cargo nearly halfway across the globe is staggering. The tension between feeding the world and protecting our environment is just incredibly high right now.
Section 3. Zooming in. The 13,000-kilometer journey of rice.
Okay, let's dive into this. We've seen the big, abstract numbers, but what does it actually take to move a single crop? Let's map out a highly specific route highlighted in the research. The nearly 13,000-kilometer journey of rice from a farm in Thailand all the way to a consumer in the United States. This isn't just a matter of tossing some bags on a boat and sailing away. It involves incredibly complex, multi-layered logistics.
This whole process is really the perfect way to understand our massive carbon problem. Imagine this. Step 1. The freshly harvested rice is moved from the farm to a silo, almost always using pickup trucks running on gas or diesel. Step 2. It gets loaded onto heavier, optimized trucks to make it to a rail station. Step 3. Diesel locomotives drag all that heavy cargo to an export port. Step 4. It crosses the vast ocean on giant bulk carrier ships. Step 5. It finally hits the import port and goes right back onto the rail and truck networks for packaging. Step 6. Diesel delivery trucks distributed to retail stores. And finally, you, the consumer, likely drive a gas-powered car to the grocery store just to bring it home. Literally every single link in this entire chain relies on carbon-emitting fossil fuels. It's wild. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the efficiency paradox of ocean transit. The huge ships used for these oceanic crossings, like Panamax bulk carriers, are actually highly efficient per ton of cargo. We're talking about moving up to 99,999 deadweight tons in a single trip. Economically and environmentally, it's way better than sending thousands of smaller vehicles. But here's the catch. They are still fundamentally tied to polluting diesel engines. They might be the most efficient option we currently have, but they are very, very far from truly sustainable.
Section 4. Is true sustainability possible?
So, with a globalized food system so deeply entrenched in these long-distance logistics, who actually holds the power to fix this massive, carbon-heavy supply chain? Well, the research makes it clear that the responsibility has to be split. On one side, we have the state. Governments can't just pass green regulations and call it a day. They actually have to build the framework. That means serious investments in better port and rail infrastructure, fixing urban mobility and reducing road congestion so freight can move more efficiently. On the other side, we have the private sector. Companies have got to step up by optimizing their logistics so trucks are always running full, investing heavily in hybrid or alternative fuel fleets, and streamlining how cargo is handled at every single stop.
Because as the author of the study points out, this problem is totally baked into the system itself. To quote the text directly, the predominant economic model propitiates a complex and unsustainable mobility model since production centers are hundreds and thousands of kilometers from consumption points. Basically, we built our entire global economy on cheap trade, and this high-carbon mobility, it's an inherent, unavoidable feature of that exact design. So I want to leave you with a thought. The next time you sit down to eat a simple bowl of rice or even a piece of bread, ask yourself, how many invisible, carbon-heavy kilometers did this exact meal travel just to reach my plate? The journey of our food connects all of us, but if we actually want a sustainable future, it's a journey we urgently need to reinvent. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer today. Keep asking those big questions and keep exploring the hidden systems that shape our world.